Welcome back. I'm B. Happy Black History Month. Today I'm sharing 10 Black horror gems that deserve a spot on your watch list. This list has a little bit of everything: vampires, zombies, psychological horror, supernatural horror, sci fi, and even a horror comedy. Some of these don't get talked about enough, so whether you're into slow burn horror, revenge stories, or socially conscious scares, there's something here for you. So let's get into it. The first movie is Death by Temptation. It stars Kadeem Hardison, who most people know as Dwayne Cleophas Wayne from A Different World. It also features Bill Nunn, most known to me for his role as Radio Raheem in Do the Right Thing, rest in peace, Bill Nunn, and Cynthia Bond as the mysterious woman at the center of it all. The movie was written, produced, and directed by James Bond III, who also plays the main character, Joel. Joel is a divinity student who begins questioning his fate, so he heads to New York to visit his friend Kay. While they're out bar hopping, they meet a beautiful woman who turns out to be a succubus preying on men. When she locks in on Joel, Kay realizes something is seriously wrong and turns to Dougie, a cop with the knowledge of the supernatural, for help. So Kadeem is great in this, and Bill Nunn's character is a hot mess. Cynthia Bond is stunning and completely sells it as the seductive demoness. The movie has a great soundtrack and it really captures that early 90s vibe. I wasn't the biggest fan of the ending, but overall, Death by Temptation is a good time and worth checking out. The next movie is Sugar Hill. This is a blaxploitation zombie horror movie released in 1974. This story follows Sugar Hill, a woman who turns to voodoo to get revenge after her boyfriend is murdered by gangsters. With the help of voodoo priestess Mama Matrice, they summon Baron Samedi, the Lord of the Dead, who agrees to help Sugar by raising an army of zombies to take down the gangsters one by one. The revenge is satisfying, and Marky B as Sugar Hill is captivating. She's confident, stylish, and completely in control. The zombies are genuinely spooky, with their eerie movements and glowing eyes adding to the unsettling atmosphere. For anyone into revenge horror with a supernatural twist, this one is worth checking out. Up next is the movie Spell. This one is a folk horror thriller with hoodoo elements. The story follows a man named Marquise, played by Omari Hardwick, who crashes his plane in a remote Appalachian area. He wakes up injured and trapped in the home of Miss Eloise, played by Loretta Devine, who claims she's nursing him back to health. But something is definitely off. As he starts to piece things together, he realizes he might not be able to leave. I really like Loretta Devine in this role. It's so different from how I usually see her, and I really enjoyed it. Omari Hardwick also did a good job. The wife and kids acting wasn't the strongest, but since they aren't in the movie that much, it didn't take away from the overall experience. The film does a great job of building tension and unease, which kept me engaged. The ending got a little silly for me personally, but overall, I'd say it's a solid watch. Now we're on to the movie His House. This is a psychological horror movie with supernatural elements, but at its core, it's about grief, trauma, and survival. The story follows a refugee couple, Boyle and Rial, played by Shofi DeRusso and Wumi Musaku, I really hope I pronounced their names correctly, who escaped from war-torn South Sudan and are placed in a rundown house in England. Just as they start trying to adjust to their new life, they realize something sinister is lurking in their home. But the real horror isn't just the haunting, it's the trauma they carry with them. Wunmi is the standout here, but Shofi is great too. The film is well acted, is beautifully crafted, and it hits on a deeper level. It's emotional, heartbreaking, and lingers long after the credits roll. The next movie is The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. This Frankenstein-inspired horror film was written and directed by Bomani J. Story in his directorial debut. The story follows Vicaria, a brilliant teenager who believes death is a disease that can be cured. After losing her brother to violence, she becomes obsessed with bringing him back to life. But in trying to defy death, she unleashes something terrifying. This film breathes new life into Mary Shelley's Frankenstein while carving out its own identity. The opening monologue and visuals are powerful, setting the tone right away. Now, I've seen some complaints about the title of the movie, and I get why the title might be off-putting. You know, we have the stereotype of the angry black woman, the angry black girl, but anger is valid, especially for Black women and girls. It's a part of grief, and I think that's what the title is getting at. I really liked how the film explored grief. There's an emotional weight to it that makes the story hit a little harder, The social commentary adds depth, though some aspects felt a bit heavy handed to me. After rewatching this movie, I'm still not sure how I feel about the ending. It has its flaws, but it's a compelling take on a classic story. If you're into reimaginings of classic horror, this modern take on Frankenstein has a lot to say. Next is Black Box. This is a sci fi psychological horror that gives serious Black Mirror vibes with a horror twist. The story follows Nolan, played by Mamadou Athie, a man struggling with memory loss after a tragic accident. Desperate to piece his life back together, he undergoes an experimental treatment to recover his memories. But as the process goes on, strange and unsettling things start happening, making him question what's real. This was a solid sci-fi horror with an engaging mystery at its core. I really liked the psychological elements and how the story unfolded. Mamadou Athie did a great job carrying the film, and while the concept isn't entirely new, the new execution makes it worth the watch. The next movie is Ganja and Hess. This is a psychological vampire horror film with a unique and unconventional style. It stars Dwayne Jones, our horror scream king, most known for his role in Night of the Living Dead. The story follows Dr. Hess Green, an anthropologist who becomes cursed with an unquenchable thirst for blood after coming into contact with an ancient dagger. As he struggles with his new existence, his life becomes entangled with love, addiction, and the supernatural. This movie is surreal, atmospheric, and unlike any other vampire film. The storytelling is unconventional with dreamlike visuals and a hypnotic tone that makes it feel more like an experience than a typical horror movie. I'll admit I didn't fully grasp everything that was going on, but there's something about it that I like. And I think some of you may really enjoy the ending scene. Most of us have heard of this one. It's Blacula. This movie is a cult classic among Black folk. William Marshall plays Blacula, also known as Prince Mamawalde, and he brings so much regalness to his role. His presence, his voice, everything about his performance makes Blacula feel like a true prince turned tragic monster. The story follows him as he awakens in modern day Los Angeles after being cursed by Dracula centuries ago. As he tries to navigate his new world, his thirst for blood and a chance encounter set him on a path filled with horror and heartbreak. It is definitely a movie of its time, from the fashion to the dialogue, but that doesn't take away from how good it is. The film has style, memorable moments, and a lead performance that elevates it beyond just a blaxploitation take on Dracula. Blacula is a Black horror classic for a reason, and if you haven't seen it, what are you waiting for? It is worth checking out. The next movie is Scream, Blacula Scream, the sequel to Blacula. A lot of horror sequels don't live up to the original, but this one is actually a strong follow-up. Even though I like Blacula a little bit more, there's still a lot to enjoy here. This time around, a resurrection ritual brings Blacula back, and once again, his thirst for blood leads to chaos. But things get even more interesting when he crosses paths with Lisa, a voodoo priestess played by the legendary Pam Grier. There are some slower parts where the pacing drags, but having Pam Grier in the mix adds a fresh dynamic. And as always, William Marshall's regal presence elevates the film. His performance brings so much depth and tragedy to Blacula, making him more than just another vampire villain. If you liked Blacula, this is definitely worth checking out. It builds on the story and adds some cool supernatural elements and gives us another great performance from William Marshall. The last movie on this list is Vampires vs. the Bronx. This is a horror comedy, and while it's not scary at all, it's a fun and cute movie. If you have kids or tweens, this is a great way to introduce them to horror without anything too intense. The story follows a group of kids from the Bronx who start noticing strange things happening in their neighborhood. When they realize a real threat is moving in, they take it upon themselves to fight back and protect their homes. One thing I really liked about this movie is how down to earth it feels, even though they are battling vampires. The cast is a mix of Black and Latino characters, and as someone who grew up in the Bronx, I appreciated how the movie represented the culture. Not everyone has the same experience, but the way that the kids interacted, the friendships, the jokes, the blend of cultures, it felt similar to how I grew up. It's a dynamic that isn't always shown in movies, but they got it right here, in my opinion. The movie also has some socio-political commentary, but it's done in a way that's easy for kids to understand. It may not be the deepest or the most original horror movie, but it's fun, has heart, and brings something fresh to the genre. All right, folks, that's it for today's list. Hopefully you found some Black horror movies to add to your watch list. Let me know in the comments if you've seen any of these or if there are any Black horror films you think more people should check out. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more horror content.